Hi, my name is Chris Clark. I'm the artistic director of the 30th annual Whitaker St. Louis International Film Festival. We're so very thrilled to be back in theaters this year. One of the longest running and most cherished competitions of all during the festival is the New Filmmakers Forum Emerging Directors Competition. And this is year 21 or 22, I've lost track, founded by the late Bobby Lautenschlager. And an important part of our mission is to nurture up and coming filmmakers. This competition is 5 first-time directors with their very first feature film, and they're put toe to toe with each other and judged by a jury of their peers. And at the end, one of them will be awarded a $500 prize and bragging rights for being the New Filmmakers Forum champion. These films come to us primarily, nearly exclusively through our submissions portal, Film Freeway. So we don't know or invite, we don't hear about things and invite them. They just come through organically through that way. And we sift through the many hundreds of submissions we get to get down to what we think are the 5 most unique and bright voices of emerging filmmakers. A mandate, an important part of this the last several years was looking extra hard for female-centric and women-directed projects like this one. Like last year, there are 3 of the 5 competition directors are women, and I'm very proud and happy to be speaking with Isabella Del Rosal, who is joining us from Brooklyn. I'm in the Zoom Studio West in my back bedroom here today. But thank you, Isabel, for joining us today. We're talking about your film, Walk With Me, which is streaming virtually as part of the festival. And like I mentioned, these films come through our submissions portal, and sometimes I've heard about them in other festivals, but sometimes, like your film, I had not heard of it before, and we're sifting through hundreds and hundreds of things, and I rely on a screening committee to help sift through the rubble, so to speak, and weed out the ones that we don't really want to spend too much time on and highlight the ones that we do. Important part of your film, which is almost entirely produced and acted by women. The story is women-centric. I know that's an important part of your mission and in what you do and who you are. But I wanted to tell you that the reviewer that pushed me in this direction to look at it much closer and included this competition was a retired 60-something-year-old man who thought it was just a beautiful storytelling. So I know the matriarchy was important to creating this process, but in this instance, a kindly member of the patriarchy, one of my reviewers, helped push it forward. So I think you accomplish your mission in making it, sort of a story about women, but a universal story of love. One thing in your statement, you said you didn't intend on making it a queer project, but it became a relationship between 2 women. So, was that not the way the story was written, or how did you land upon that very important arc of the story?
Right. Yeah. Well, I guess that statement is just, I'm a filmmaker at heart. I've been making short films and a sketch comedy, and I took time off to raise my kids, and so I had my eye on the prize to make a feature at some point to get myself into that. Like, that's been the goal for a very long time. And yeah, so this story just kind of unfolded in a way that reflected what was happening in my own life. And I had written a few features before that never really felt good, to be honest. And when I wrote this, and I felt something through the writing process, and I knew that it's something special. And yeah, so it just kind of came together. It kind of wrote itself, and it's a really beautiful experience, this whole process.
I admired many things about the film. We'll talk about a bunch of them in this time. The pacing, though, I'm a fidgety, nervous, highly caffeinated person, and sometimes it's hard for me to sit back and be still with a film like yours that is so very, I don't know what the right word, just slow paced, deliberately so. So I made myself stop a couple of times. I didn't watch it all the way through because I couldn't. I wanted to give it the proper credit. So I made myself stop till I was in a slowed down pace, so I could just sit back and not be distracted by 10 billion other things. And it was worth the effort to go back to it and just kind of let it slowly wash over it. It's kind of like life, where things don't happen in a highly edited MTV or quick edit format. Things go slowly and things take time. And, I got to enjoy that and watch them grow. Music is central to the story because Logan is a musician herself, but it helps kind of punctuate and accentuate the moods and the feeling. And so tell us about the songwriter, Amanda Walther, who is heavily populated. Oh, and also in my nervousness, I hardly ever sit through credits because I'm always jumping up or doing something else. I made myself just sit there and enjoy the end credit song because I wanted just a few more minutes with my emotions about the film and Amanda. So how did, Walk With Me get married with Amanda Walther?
Yeah, it's a good word to use, married, because I think the two things live, it's an interconnected relationship. Like the film wouldn't be what it is without the music. But yeah, when I was writing, I was just about to sit down to write the first draft, and I was speaking with Adrian Walther, who is Amanda's brother, who is also a musician who had been working with for years. And he mentioned that his sister was going on tour, and I didn't know that she was a musician. Anyway, I discovered her music through him, and I fell in love with it. And so at the very first writing of the film, I ended up listening to Dala, which is her music with Sheila Caroline and Amanda Walther, and Toronto based. I listened to their soundtrack on repeat, writing this movie, because it emotionally helped me to get to the places I needed to go in the script. And when I was done with the first draft, there was just such a strong tie to that sound and what had happened in the writing process that I reached out to Amanda and asked her if she'd be interested in writing the music, and I sent her the script. And so that was in 2014.
Oh boy, wow.
Before there was any money, before there was any real, like, we could make this thing a reality. And so we sat with it for a while, and it was interesting because she had never written music for film ever before, but also she'd never written music in the voice of another person, because in this case she had to write a few songs in Logan's voice from a perspective that was completely different from hers. So for a few years, the more I developed Logan and her backstory, I would sit with Amanda and talk about Logan and her whole emotional history. So she kind of did a lot of the work that Bridget did for her character, and Bridget will say often that the music helped her understand who Logan was.
Did Bridget sing? Was Bridget singing herself?
She sang. We got that all on set live. So
I thought so, but I think it really complemented Amanda's music, very nicely. Yeah. So casting was very key too. In a romantic story, chemistry is always important, and this had a few twists and turns along the way. How hard was casting for you to get these two women that the chemistry really works? Sometimes if it doesn't, it would ruin the mood of this very deliberate, slow boil film. I can't imagine too many other people together, but they connected. Tell us about that process.
Yeah. Well, Devin, who plays Amber, I had worked with her for a few years on my sketch comedy show. So she and I had only done comedy together. But in that time, we became friends, and I came to know her as a very mature and intuitive and beautiful, deep human being. So when I wrote this, she was one of the first people to read the first draft, and she had all these ideas and notes and loved it. And very quickly I was like, oh, I think she's right for this role, even though I'd never seen her do drama. And, prior, she has a musical theater background. So the first on-camera work was doing sketch comedy with me. And then she jumped into a feature film, like being the lead of a feature. So she just felt like a right fit. I knew that she could reach the depths that Amber needed to, you know, she just could do it, you know. And then casting for Bridget, for Logan, I had been casting for a few weeks. I had gotten like a lot of the other characters. I'd sat and watched hundreds of reels, and I was compiling my list of people to contact to hold auditions, which back then were in person still. And when I got to Logan's character, Bridget's reel was like the 6th reel that I watched. And I stopped watching after that. I just, from watching her reel, I was like, I found her like so quickly. And so I Googled her, and there's a million things, because she's so incredibly talented and has a hand in so many things. And it was really just, I wanted to meet her and see if we had chemistry first. And she did a read. It wasn't a question of whether she had acting chops or not, because I knew from what I'd seen that she was like incredible. And she's a singer-songwriter herself. And she's a director and a writer. Like, she does a lot of things. And then after I met with her and I loved her, I brought her in, and Devin and her had a reading, and it was amazing, you know. And they hit it off. They're friends now, and you know, it's just they had a lot of respect for one another's artistry and as people, and so it was a really beautiful thing, you know, that happened on set.
And from reading some of your notes, apparently it was a beautiful thing. On the other side of the camera too, you talked about in your director's notes just what great synergy and harmony that many people commented on apparently over time. You know, crew members themselves and people just observing. So no, there's nothing you. Of course, you want that to be, but you never know how, you know, groups of people are going to connect. And so often we hear about disharmonious sets and things that don't work out so well. And sometimes that winds up being reflected in the final product. So it's extra special that you found this group that just clicked across the board. It, you know, makes workflow better. It allows the characters to stay better in character, and allows you to concentrate on what you're trying to do. Because this was a really nice, you know, really quite a balancing act to keep it going at the slow pace, but moving in the right direction, and all the other things the characters were going through. I myself came blazing out of the closet to a teenager, you know, 4+ decades ago. So I know what it's like to be around confused parents and confused partners and going through that emotion. So I felt for Amber. I also felt for Logan, being, you know, come on, hurry up, you know, but you can't tell somebody to hurry up in any scenario like that. Time, like the film, takes as long as it takes, and you get to the right spot eventually, if that's what's meant to be, and they did. So I know this is your first feature. I know you make you mentioned your comedy. I know you do a lot of digital content creation and shorts and things. Did you like working in the long form?
Oh yeah. You know, the first day on set, I literally thanked my teenage self when I was living in Puerto Rico in high school, and it was like, what do you want to do with your life and go to college? And you know, that whole like conundrum. And I just, something in me was like, I want to make film and I want to live in New York City. And so I've like been building that skill set for a long time, but literally the first day on set, like when this was happening, there was this quiet moment. I thanked my young self for reaching for this, because I love making features. Like this, it was such a wonderful experience. And I love the short format too. And I do a lot of docu-style things for work, and that's all very fulfilling, but narrative, like writing and working with actors is my favorite thing really in the whole process, is that experience, and that like fine tuning the performance and the arcs, and you know, it's just an incredible experience for me.
Good. Throughout the endless amounts of time and history, men have dominated just about everything. Do you feel it as a woman today that things are any better than they were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 1 year ago? for women working in this industry.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly, there are shifts happening all around, and we read about it and we hear about it. And yeah, I mean, I'm in this more obscure, incredibly deeply independent world. So, so and I've kind of been at the forefront of all my projects and building my own career and things like that. So I haven't personally really experienced that kind of, not discrimination. I don't really know what the word is, but
That's
at
one of
this
them.
level.
There's a bunch. That's one for sure.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, there's a lot of words. We can skip them all for this purpose. I also noted that you're working on a new feature and something about a ghost being involved. So I'm curious about that because I like ghost stories. How did you go
Yeah,
from a love story to a ghost story, or does the ghost fall in love? That, you know, that'd be a connective tissue.
well, this is something that I was like, kind of like was bubbling in my 20s. Like I've always been curious about the veil between life and the afterlife. And so, and through personal deep loss in my real life, I've done a lot of research and exploration into the afterlife and into souls and energy. And so this next one is kind of a culmination of a lot of just the soul work on my part, and it's so intricate. I'm so in love with this next script. I'm close. It's so close to being like a final draft, but I've been working on it the last year and a half, and I'm very excited about it. But yeah, it's about it's a supernatural drama. It's about a mother whose daughter goes missing, and then in that she starts to see things, and it's really like what's happening is really the crux of it. So yeah, it's very exciting. I can't wait to get this one off the ground.
Well, you're an alum of the festival now, so when it's time, please share your ghost story with us. Isabel, this has been wonderful to finally meet you virtually. You have so many emails and stuff going on, but I always like connecting a face to a voice, whether it's written down on a screen or not. Your storytelling moved me and moved my reviewing committee. I do hope that it moves and speaks to audiences that see it. We're streaming your film virtually during the festival, and good luck with the competition. Good luck in life, and good luck with keep making films. And thank you for sharing it with the St. Louis Film Festival. And I'm glad we got to this point, and I'm glad to share your film Walk With Me with audiences, and the beautiful music and acting. So I could keep talking for a long time, but I think we're out of time now. So again, thanks for spending a bit of your time with me today, and we hope to see more of you very soon.
Thank you. Thanks for the honor of being accepted into your festival. I'm thrilled. The whole team is thrilled. So
Good.
thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thanks.